Okay, I think we're live, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Ready or not, here we come. Well, first of all, I want to welcome everybody who has signed up and registered to be an attendee and a participant in today's Oregon City Business Alliance webinar. We're honored today to have the Clackamas County Commissioners with us, and I'll be introducing each and every one of them to you very soon. But just I wanted to share a few words from the Oregon City Business Alliance. We recognize that 2020 has been a year that is unlike any other year that any of us have experienced. And we feel the pain, we feel the tragedies, we feel the challenges that many of you from a personal and a professional standpoint are dealing with right now with your families as we approach the Thanksgiving holiday, as well as your businesses. And we just want to let you know we hear you. We want to do anything that we possibly can to assist you. And as we go forward and emerge from this pandemic with the various vaccines that are now being made available, we just want to keep you aware of all the programs that might possibly be available to assist your businesses to get back on their feet, get your employees back rehired, and get you back to full strength. So please feel free to send us any emails, any concerns that any of you have, and we'll do our best to go ahead and try to get the answers to your questions as quickly as possible. So with that being said, I'm very excited and honored to introduce our Clackamas County Commissioners for you today. We're going to give each and every one of them 2 minutes for opening statements. Then we're going to be having a long time for questions and answers. So please feel free to submit your questions into the webinar. And Sherry Henson will be asking the commissioners the questions, and Dan Fowler, both of them are board members, will be reviewing the questions that have been submitted. So we're going to try to get all of your questions to the commissioners. So I'd like to introduce Commission Chair Jim Bernard, Commissioners Martha Schrader, Commissioners Paul Savas, Commissioners Ken Humberston, and there's Sonya. We got Sonya now, and Commissioner Sonya Fischer. So with that being said, Commission Chair Bernard, why don't we start off with you for your opening comments?
Sure. You would usually prepare for this, but I've decided to kind of wing it. Clackamas County and of course the country, the state has gone through many challenges. First, I'd like to thank the Oregon City Business Alliance for providing us this forum. Clackamas County, like other counties, has been greatly impacted by COVID, and like a few counties by the fires. First off, I got to say that we have wonderful people at the county that are doing an outstanding job addressing these issues. I myself have been working with the chairs of both Washington and Multnomah County on a weekly basis. For quite some time there, we were tied to Multnomah County. We are no longer tied to Multnomah County, which is good news, except that Clackamas County's numbers are not good. And so it's going to be up to you, the residents of Clackamas County, to try and keep one another safe so we can get our numbers down and we can open up businesses again. I said to Gary Schmidt, our administrator, that this is my 20th year in politics, which is a long time. And this 2020 has been the year that all that experience has really helped me provide the leadership that I think Clackamas County needed during these times. It's been really valuable for me to work with Martha, Paul, Sonya, and Ken. I've learned some lessons, like what we say and what we do sometimes reflects on one another. And it's important that we always reflect what is the values of Clackamas County. And we have many good values. ones that are important that we need to follow. So I look forward to my retirement and want to thank all of you for your years and years of support, and look forward to not disappearing, but being some influence in Clackamas County. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, let's, ladies first then. Martha, why don't you go ahead and go next?
Thank you so much for hosting us today. I really appreciate it. You know, I rarely say I have favorite groups of folks, but I will tell you that in Oregon City, you are a wonderful community and a wonderful business group. So thanks for having us here. To echo a little bit what Jim said, 2021 for me will be the 18th year I've been in public service. And I never thought this was going to be the pathway my life would take. I thought I was going to be a teacher librarian, quite frankly. But I have to tell you that that experience as an educator and raising children and being on a farm, I think has prepared me for what we need to do as a community, because as we move into this Thanksgiving season, that's what's been on my mind a lot. We're a very diverse community, and the diversity of our community in the end is our strength. And that the commitment to our citizens as elected leaders is what makes the job, when the work that we do, it's not even really a job, it's really work. It's good work that we do to make people feel inclusive, to make people feel at home, to make sure that our citizens' needs are being met, to make sure that our roads get paved and our health clinics stay open. And when the pandemic is over, our tourism blossoms once again. I will have to say, other than being a school librarian, as I reflect on this Thanksgiving season, I think this is one of the most rewarding work I've ever had the opportunity to do, but I don't do it alone. I do it with really wonderful colleagues. I want to say how much I've appreciated Jim all these years. And Jim, we haven't agreed on everything. You know that. Oh, surprise there. But I am really going to miss you. And I'm going to miss Ken. I have to say this as well. You've always been my military bunker buddy. I can depend on you to be straightforward, on the muscle, go get them, make things happen. And to Commissioner Savas, I really want to thank you. You've been a close friend for so many years as well. And your ability to wrap your head around all the details has helped me be a better commissioner. I kind of tend to be more global in my way I look at the world. And also Commissioner Fischer, I'm thankful you're here because you have such a big heart. And I think that you care about our community, you care about the children, you care about the parents, and all of us have a deep commitment to helping people get through this pandemic. As Jim said, I thought I'd seen everything as a commissioner. I thought that, you know, what goes around comes around, and that what I was doing was, I've seen that before, and that worked 10 years ago, or maybe that didn't work 10 years ago. But what I have found out in this time of pandemic and wildfires is that never say never. I want to thank my colleagues for being supportive through this difficult time. I want to tell our citizens and our constituents how deeply we care about you and how deeply we love, all of us, the breadth and depth and scope of this entire county. It's an amazing place to live. It's an amazing place to work, and it's an amazing place to play. And as I've always said in Clackamas County, our motto is we do it bigger, we do it better, and we do it with style. So thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I look forward to any questions.
All right, well, thank you very much, Martha. And we at the OCBA agree with everything you said, and we too will miss Commission Chair Jim Bernard and Commissioner Humberston. We want to thank them for their amazing service that they've done for our community and our region over the last few years. They will be deeply missed. Well, who would like to go next? Otherwise, I'm just going to go in alphabetical order. Okay, no volunteers. So Sonya, in alphabetical order, you're next.
Okay, well, it may look funny, but I will go ahead as long as my voice is good. Otherwise, I can jump out of the meeting and re-sign in and it might have a better connection. But you can hear me okay?
We can hear you, Sonya.
Okay, thank you. Excellent.
welcome.
So thank you, Commissioner Schrader, Chair Bernard, and thank you to the Oregon Business Alliance for hosting this meeting today. As you all know, we have been absolutely dedicated to helping our residents and our business community navigate through this very stormy time. And COVID-19 has taken a toll on all of us. I want to highlight one particular program today, which is the Go Teams, which was created out of our COVID crisis. The Go Teams are made up of county staff members that go out into the community to help individuals and families who are struggling with whatever they're struggling with. It could be anxiety, unemployment, grief, or a host of all other types of emotions or social issues. And I don't have to tell you that how these issues have been exacerbated during the wildfires and during this COVID crisis. So how we think about it is that the Go Teams are like psychological first aid, and they meet people where they're at, ease distress, and ultimately seek to prevent post-traumatic stress disorder, suicide, and other significant issues. I just wanted to share a couple stories with you. Just 1 month after the onset of the pandemic in our area, we have helped held over more than 260 Go Team events, and we have assisted at least 525 individuals during this time. And I just want to share some stories. Here's a couple. A mother who was stressed out caring for a son who was involved in a bad car accident. Upon receiving some information about available resources, she told the Go Teams crew, "You being here with this list is exactly what I needed today." Here's another, a parent who lost a child who had been diagnosed with cancer. She stated her intention to follow up with professional helplines. Also, the teams help with medical crises as well. One woman who is in need of power for her CPAP machine to help her treat with sleep apnea, our teams were able to coordinate and provide a generator. She was very grateful that the medical crisis was averted. And I'll end with a note that we received from a wildfire volunteer. I have served as a chaplain at 6 wildfires, including the Camp Fire in Paradise and others where 3 firefighters were lost in the line of duty. I also served as the chaplain at the OSO mudslide that took 43 lives. I have never seen such an easy to work with team of disaster mental health professionals as your Go Team members. I have never worked with a larger team like yours that brought the level of maturity, concern, and professionalism, which still maintained a flexibility and a servant-hearted style of leadership. I trust that you will see why this program is so valuable and why we're so proud of our employees at Clackamas County who participate as Go Team members. And with that, I'll pass it on to Commissioner Humberston.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Fischer. Appreciate that. Before I read some of the prepared remarks that I have, I wanted to share something with folks. As I guess I'd say the old man on the board, having served in public office for 54 years. It's nice to hear these youngsters that have a couple of years under their belt now. But that being said, part of my career was in firefighting, and I did that both professionally as well as a volunteer firefighter. And one of the things that came out of the fires this year was commentary about how the firefighters did their job, particularly on protecting a property. And I think some of those comments come because people do not know what the primary responsibility of firefighting is. And let me make it very clear, the primary responsibility is not the protection of property. It is the protection of life. First, foremost, last, and always, it is the protection of life. If property can be protected without unduly risking life, then of course that's the next mission. But first and foremost, it's the protection of life. And we should be very grateful that in the fires that we had here in Clackamas County, no one died. That was given the amount of acreage burned, the speed at which the fire moved at 1.17 miles in one day. It was an incredible accomplishment that no one lost their life in the fires. That being said, there were costs. And let me go over a little bit of that with you. 200,000 acres were burned in Clackamas County alone. About 53,000 residents were evacuated. Approximately 450 properties are in the fire-affected areas. 111 properties were damaged or destroyed structures. 62 homes were lost. 214 other structures damaged or destroyed, and cleanup is estimated at $6.8 million. The first part of cleanup has been done, and the state is now working on the second part of the cleanup. But that is going to take a significant amount of time before it is all done. So keep in mind that your friends and neighbors here in Clackamas County may need your help in the future, and be prepared to give what you can and when you can to help them out. Lastly, on a personal note, service to Clackamas County has been the professional highlight and honor of my career. I have truly enjoyed working with my colleagues, truly enjoyed getting some things done. And I'd just like to share two little anecdotes of why it is such an important and rewarding job. One day I received a phone call from a friend of mine at Home Depot. There was a veteran at Home Depot working there who was suffering from PTSD, had a couple of children. His wife had left him and he was in dire need because he was going to lose his apartment. I was able to make a phone call to our Health, Housing, and Human Services, and within 3 days, he was in a motel room with assistance being provided to him by our Health, Housing, and Human Services folks and our Veteran Services folks. That's what county government is about. On another occasion, I found out from a person that they had 8 children. They lived in a rural part of Clackamas County outside of Sandy and had little or no effective internet service. Had one of those little devices you can use with your telephone. But with 8 children that had to go to school, it was virtually impossible for them to do the work that they needed to do. And taking their children in an automobile to a hot spot in the city was certainly not an option. And on top of that, 3 of those children were special needs children. I was able to contact our folks at our technical services division. They got on the phone to SandyNet. They flew a drone, found a line of sight opportunity for a signal for high-speed internet, put an electric box on a tree, ran a line down to her house, and now her children are able to meet the educational needs they need to meet. Those are just 2 little examples, and I know my colleagues could share many, many more of what Clackamas County does and why what we do is so important. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity to serve you. Commissioner Savas.
Thank you. And thank you to the Oregon City Business Alliance for having us today and giving us an opportunity to speak with you and take your questions, hopefully shortly here. I'll keep my comments as close to the 2-minute timeline as possible. I do want to just talk a little bit about the CARES Act funding and how disappointed myself and my colleagues here today are with some of the numbers here. And our neighboring jurisdictions, the city of Portland, Multnomah County, and Washington County collectively received $247 million of CARES Act funding. And that was given directly from the federal government to those cities because they had a population of over 500,000. And Clackamas County sits here at 418,000. And so we were under a distribution from really the governor or the state. And we anticipated that on a pro rata per capita share, that our share would have been about $72 million. And I do know that jurisdictions that got that direct funding helped businesses. And I don't know exactly what the numbers are that they gave to those, but you know, it's somewhat beneficial, I guess, or advantageous for Portlanders to be able in Multnomah County, because they really got two bites at the apple, if you will, that CARES Act funding. And I'm not sure exactly how that played out. And but we just got word last week that the governor's formula for the remaining 30 to $50 million, I think 30, it's not exactly clear yet, that they're going to distribute out to the rest of the state directly to businesses like yourselves, that would be $500,000 for every county, and then a pro rata per capita share of the dollars would go to each of those. So we've got a rough idea what that is. What I was a little bit flabbergasted, disappointed by, was that I just presumed logically and equitably and in fairness, I really presumed that the governor would have just given the other jurisdictions that didn't get the CARES Act funding, you know, minus Washington County and minus Portland and because they already had their share. But, or some adjustment that if they gave X amount to businesses, that would be subtracted from the amount. But they're going to get 3 bites of the apple, if you will, if you're in Portland, 2 bites of the apple in Multnomah County and in Washington County. So hopefully we'll be able to provide some assistance to our businesses in a meaningful way, and ideally an equivalent way or an equitable way as the other counties. But right now the formula is not drawn. As a business owner, as my dad put me to work when I was 9 years old. So basically, I've been self-employed almost my entire life. So I can relate to the businesses out there. And I know that in my lifetime that I had significant challenges, but I cannot imagine what it would be like for businesses that are right now that are basically locked down, because of COVID. In these circumstances, I can't imagine how difficult that is. But I probably can more closely because, again, my entire life been in small business. So I appreciate everything that we do. We got to remember, not only are the businesses impacted, the employees are impacted, and the patrons of that business are impacted. So I take that all very seriously. And I'm hoping that we can make some adjustments with the governor's formula to get more of our share to the county. And I will just basically, I know I probably used up my 2 minutes, so I'm going to conclude my comments there, and I look forward to the questions. And thank you all. Thanks again for hosting us.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Savas. We really appreciate all of your comments as well. Again, we at the OCBA echo what you said about businesses and basically being in a lockdown now for quite some time in various phases since March. And they open up as best they can, and then they're told to shut down again. They bring their employees back, and then they're told to leave, let their employees go. And you just can't run a business that way. Nobody can. But again, hopefully these vaccines will be distributed, and I know there'll be some questions to you about the vaccines, but hopefully those will be available to the general public sooner than later. So now I'd like to introduce Sherry Henson and Dan Fowler, who again will be asking the questions to the commissioners. We'd like for everyone who's participating in today's Zoom webinar to go ahead and submit your questions to the Q&A. That's where Dan will be monitoring that. And then he'll be submitting those to Sherry or asking those questions to the commissioner himself. So that being said, Sherry, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Kent. And again, I want to thank the commissioners for taking time out of your busy schedules to meet with us today. We have some pre-submitted questions that I'm going to be asking you. There's certain topics. We'll try to stay on topic. And again, we encourage the attendees to submit their questions via chat or Q&A, and then Dan will be asking or presenting those questions. So I'm going to start, and again, any or all of you can answer these questions. We're asking that you keep your answers to a minimum of 2 minutes, just so we can get everybody's questions answered. So the first question, again, COVID top of mind, is the county involved with vaccine distribution yet? And anybody can answer that, or all of you can answer it.
Oh,
We are
I'll
not-
go ahead and jump in. I can tell you, if anybody was driving around Clackamas Town Center with the flu distribution, flu vaccine that came through the tents, did anybody, I mean, I can't see the participants here, but if you saw that, that was like a test run of, we eased up our requirements so that we could test that to really practice effective distribution of the vaccine. And Commissioner Schrader could probably talk about, she actually went out and did some public relations around that and got our flu shot out there, can probably speak more directly to how that works and the vision for what will be once we get the vaccine.
Thank you, Commissioner Fischer. At this point, we're waiting to see what vaccine comes to the fore. The one that seems to be most promising is the Pfizer folks that have been working, I believe, with a German company to pull that together. The issue, though, that we're going to have is this particular vaccine is a messenger RNA vaccine, which is a genetic piece. It's quite different than some of the vaccines we've had before, and it has to be kept at an extremely low cold temperature. So when I think about this, it's also going to be the logistics, if this is the vaccine that's going to make it to the finish line, and whether it does or not, I mean, there are multiple companies working on this. The logistics of that are going to be very, very interesting, because you're going to have to transport it. You're going to have priorities of who gets the vaccine first. You're going to, assuming it will probably be our healthcare workers, vulnerable folks, and just the logistics of how you're going to keep the substance at that cold a temperature and get it distributed is really going to be, I think, a challenging logistical problem, or actually challenge. Let me not say a problem. I think it can be done. I think it will be done, but it's going to be unlike anything I think that we have experienced before. And Commissioner Fischer is correct that the flu shot was a kind of a dry run of how we can do that. But the logistics of where to get it, how to get it, and who to get it to first are the things that we're going to have to think through very, very clearly and logically. I hope that was 2 minutes or less.
Sherry, I have a little follow-up to that.
Yeah.
And I'll just read it, and if any of you want to jump in, and it's been maybe partially answered, but I want to put it out. It says businesses are struggling with the lockdown. While we can see that the lockdown is intended to save lives, the casualties of the lockdown will be businesses and jobs. How do you propose supporting businesses through the uncertainty of COVID and the state's/county's response to COVID?
So let me start by just saying that a business can be rebuilt, lives can't. So death is the final end of somebody's life. So life is the most important. What the county is doing when we can get money is to help businesses and folks that are challenged due to COVID. I've been talking to the governor for 9 months now, trying to get adequate funding for our businesses. And frankly, the federal government needs to step up and get the money out the door to help our businesses survive. But right now, there isn't enough money in this state to save all the businesses that are going to go away. And frankly, I'm glad I don't have a business right now. I'm glad in 2016 that I sold my business, my property, because I would not have survived. We get it. We understand the challenge. I wish we had more to offer. We have in our planning department made many improvements that might help people facilitate better business activity to grow their business as soon as this terrible virus is under control. Somebody else, I'm sure, would like to offer more.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in. I think as I understand the question, I pulled up that chart that I referenced. It was actually about $55 million. The formula here, I'm just going to give you an idea of what we have, the opportunity. So Clackamas County share under the current structure will have about $4,168,000 to distribute out. And we'll have to come up with an application and a process, obviously. And we already have a little bit of that in place because we had a little bit of money we were able to help some businesses with. It was a pittance compared to our neighboring jurisdictions, but this will give us some kind of opportunity. I think we need to also continue to advocate for the remaining months ahead that we have until, frankly, we're back to normal, if you want to call it that. And so we've got a long ways to go yet. We're not there. And so we're going to need to continue to lobby at the state level and lobby at the federal level, and you can count on us to do that. And hopefully we'll get some more federal assistance. And I do know that we've been advocating that not only for the people that are going to find themselves without any rent assistance at the beginning of the year, we also need to keep in mind that the landlords or the property owners who would have received those monies, they also need some help too. So this is an entire system, and so we will continue to be there to ring the bell. I can assure you that. Thank you.
Can I jump in for a minute? Is that okay, folks? Let me just fill that in a little bit because let me at least tell everyone, get that information of what we've done so far. Basically, the county has distributed at this point $550,000 in grants. We do have an additional 1.5 million. Is it enough? No. Do I think that we have been equitably treated? I agree with Commissioner Savas. I think our county has been at a disadvantage, but this is what we've done with the money we've had. We've had multiple grant programs to provide economic and social assistance. We basically used it for technical support, coaching to develop talents and skills, legal assistance, accounting assistance. We partnered with the Micro Enterprise Services of Oregon, who helped us distribute $200,000 in grants on behalf of the county to small businesses of 25 employees or less in unincorporated Clackamas County. We've also partnered with Clackamas Community College to provide grant funding to assist unemployed low-income workers in our county. These grants helped unemployed workers from industries most affected by COVID-19. And obviously, as the workforce piece, it's to help them hopefully get a job, maintain a job, and get a living wage, if not now, then in the future. We consulted with local and regional partners really on how to do this. And the two leading needs that we were hearing from business the entire time were money and technical assistance, okay? And at this point, 1 million in grants has been given to small, we're gonna commit the next 1.5 million, 1 million in grants to small businesses. And here's a little bit of my soapbox, 500,000 of that is going to be dedicated to childcare providers, because the other issue we're hearing across the board with our business community is that childcare is becoming more and more of an issue as people try and get to work. So that's just a thumbnail sketch of what, with the money we have had, some of the things we have done with it, with our partners. And my hope is that, again, we get our fair share so we can actually expand and continue to do this kind of work.
Okay, we've got, I think we're going to limit to one answer unless somebody has a real burning thing, because we got a lot of questions to go and we haven't even got past the first one, or first topic. So here's one that's kind of quick, and if somebody just raise their hand or just start, and the others will just let go. Is there any knowledge that the vaccine will be available at hospitals initially, or will it be only available to health departments? Anybody know how the vaccine might be distributed?
Well, that has not been determined yet.
Okay.
Once the vaccine is approved, then they will come out with a distribution process.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
One other follow-up on COVID, and we'll hopefully move on. Another casualty will be people that are struggling with mental health and access to care. Suicide rates are climbing at an alarming rate. How will the county support people that have these health concerns? Anybody want to jump in on that?
So I'll go ahead and jump in. The GO teams were specifically designed to address the increase in mental health challenges. Also, we have the crisis line that is available 24 hours a day. And I do know that our Clackamas County mental health offices are doing virtual visits during the pandemic for anyone who's needs a mental health issue, and they triage to other service providers. So our system in Clackamas County, it's very much locally based, and it's very targeted to the members of our community. So that is a good thing. We have excellent care and support for folks, but it's hard. It's really, really hard. I want to minimize that.
Yeah. Okay, one last one on COVID. And then we'll let Sherry get to another topic. How important is it for the commission to show that they listen to and accept the scientific evidence of its healthcare professionals in the county and state?
Well, I think our role is to be a model to the rest of the community. We need to listen. I mean, science is the science. This isn't a political decision. If we had started a long time ago wearing masks, we wouldn't be in the position we are today. And that's what the science has told us. So it's very important that we listen to the science and represent well to our community the importance of following the guidelines.
Okay, Sherry, I'm going to pass it back to you for another area.
Okay, so we're going to go into the wildfires a bit. I know that Ken talked a little bit about this. And so a couple of specific questions. We know some folks lost their homes. Do you know what's happened to those evacuees? And does the county have any information on where they're now living?
Well, I certainly don't have direct information as to where they are now living, but I know our Health, Housing, and Human Services folks and the EOC folks have worked to get them placed wherever they could. I believe some are probably in some hotels and motel situations, and but beyond that, I don't know specifically case by case. What was the other part of your question?
Yeah, that pretty much answers that question, Ken.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else to add?
I'd like to add a little bit about Project Turnkey. This was something that the Association of Oregon Counties worked on, working with the Oregon Community Foundation. And for people who have the difficulty finding housing and homelessness, the idea is to purchase hotels, motels that are up for sale and turn them into housing. It's a pretty innovative idea. It was used in California. It seems to work. The legislature has allocated some money to that end, and I hope our county is actually getting into the process of applying for some of those dollars.
Thank you. What financing resources are available to property owners to expedite rebuilding of lost homes, apartments, and businesses?
So FEMA does some, that's part of what FEMA does. And we have been at the county level, been doing our best to reach out to everyone and make sure we connect them to FEMA and those resources. it's, you know, the formula and the aid for businesses is different for that for residents. So that is, you know, we're on that learning curve of discovering, at least I am, as far how, what that means to both homeowners and businesses. What I was a little bit surprised, unfortunately, was learning that, you know, a friend of mine who owns a business nearby, the Malala, the lumber mill that burned, and he lost a piece of equipment, 2 pieces of equipment, and one of them was well over $100,000. I just assumed that maybe there would be like just really basically financial aid, permanent, you know, forgivable loan or something like that. But really what it boiled down to is that for, I think, roughly somewhere in the neighborhood of about $125,000 to $150,000 loss that they suffered, that was not insured, a piece of property, that they were able to get a $25,000 loan through FEMA, through the SBA. So that was limited to that. What that can spell out for homeowners, we still yet to find, but FEMA is really the body to really help us through that.
Okay, thank you. Is the county aware of regulatory hurdles that threaten the rebuilding process? And if so, what are they?
Are you speaking?
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, are you speaking to state or federal or local?
What do you have information on, Ken?
Well, I do know that our planning department has taken a look at some of our rules and regulations for rebuilding purposes, and there's either some lowering and or some actual waiving of some of the fees to help expedite the process and make it a little easier on homeowners that want to rebuild. At the state or federal level, I'm not familiar with anything that's being done at that level.
Well, one of the issues is updating code. So you may have built your home in 1970 and, you know, the codes are different now. But the codes are created for the purpose of saving lives. So you obviously don't want to go back too far, but the state is working at updating those codes and maybe allowing some variances on those. The other is we have reduced some of our fees for, actually, I would say not fees, but we've actually expedited the process on many of these rebuilding. Well, I just want to mention one thing. You know, when the fire happened, the problem was who's going to pay for the cleanup. And I want to thank the state of Oregon, actually. They are paying for the cleanup. Hopefully FEMA will reimburse the state, but that's a great thing. It's unheard of that the state would come along and clean up private property. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Dan, do we have any follow-up to the wildfires?
The only one we had, it was just a comment or maybe a question about evacuation planning. It just seemed like there was some challenges on traffic movement when areas were said they got to evacuate. And I'm just wondering if there's now going to be forward-looking planning to maybe try to minimize that or help that in the future.
Well, I would say there's a lot to learn after this extraordinary fire, but having a fire move 17 miles overnight is unprecedented, certainly in Oregon. So after this is all done, if it ever ends, I'm sure we will meet, or folks will meet to discuss how they could have done it better.
Definitely. That's it, Sherry.
Okay, we're going to move into housing. Given the fact that Oregon City is an outer ring suburb of Portland, there's tremendous pressure for new housing. How do you see the county facilitating the building of new housing inventory?
Don't see anybody jumping at it. So first thing, Oregon City, there's a ton of opportunity in Oregon City. That would be a decision for Oregon City to make. We also have other areas, you know, there's a very big shortage of people who can actually build homes. We need to really focus on training of people in the construction industry. Martha could probably talk a lot about that. We could also facilitate faster planning opportunities. You know, there's always something positive in everything. But I'll tell you what COVID did. For years, we've been talking about online applications. And within 2 weeks, our planning department created the system. And that happened, and that has sped up a lot of application processes. So I don't know, you know, the new regulations that the state have made, some of it I'm a little concerned about, but there's a lot of opportunity for redevelopment or development, certainly in Oregon City, out towards Oregon City Golf Course and Oregon City High School and all over.
Jerry, I do have a follow-up question in that area. There's concern about the old zoning along Southeast McLaughlin Boulevard, especially this person mentioned around Southeast Concord, or excuse me, Courtney Boulevard. And could any of you speak to the potential of and the need for redevelopment in that area?
Well, McLaughlin Boulevard has always been, well, not always, but the last 20, 30 years on the top of everyone's attention. And actually the first question I think is kind of intertwined to this question as well. And I'll point that out in a little bit. The zoning on there is very flexible. So from the upside about the zoning is it's C3 zoning primarily. I ran my business on that boulevard, not at that point, at that place, at that intersection, but farther south. And the work that's being done or looked at in that area is making, you know, taking or adding some elements to it that might increase the height or maybe the walkability. And also from the business standpoint, from just on the tail end of this, some businesses are concerned that it might limit their ability to do or expand their current kind of business, that maybe it won't be an appropriate business. So actually the edge of the circle of this study area doesn't really touch the intersection of Courtney and McLaughlin. It's just to the north. So if the question is specific to that area, there's nothing in the cards right now, but just north of that intersection, just a little bit, that's where the Park Avenue process is. That's coming to us next week, I think, for a presentation of their work. There certainly is opportunity, but how it all ties together to the first, but not the second to the last question there is that there is a housing element of that, and people are looking at housing, building more housing there. I do know, for example, the Elks Lodge is looking at perhaps building an affordable housing project on that site. So they're working with the county. So we're kind of excited about that project. But at the same token, most importantly, the county has historically had a jobs housing imbalance. And if we are going to continue to grow at the rate we're growing, our population, and if we don't proportionally grow the jobs, we're really setting ourselves up for more people having to drive farther and farther out of the county, to leave the county to go to work every day. We have infrastructure challenges with transportation. And so we need to be very mindful that we grow our business opportunities at a relative rate that we can at least not exacerbate that huge jobs housing imbalance that has its own set of problems. So that was the economic engine of Clackamas County, McLaughlin Boulevard, years back, and now that's transitioning around. But we've got to really look at all those factors. Thank you for the question.
Hey, I want to add something. There's no better place in Clackamas County to make a jobs housing balance than McLaughlin Boulevard. The jobs and the housing actually are there already, and the infrastructure. I hope that really that opportunity is, you know, a big driver for the future.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Back to you.
Okay, so houselessness continues in this county. can we revisit the existing Oregon City View Manor and Clackamas Heights low-income housing projects?
So we're looking at right now. Right now in Milwaukee, we're looking at Hillside Manor, a redevelopment project. We're also looking in Oregon City at 2 sites. They're probably a little bit further down the line, but that is an area where those metro dollars could provide a lot of opportunity. We might, because some of that area is rather expensive to redevelop on a affordable housing scale. We may look at selling off a portion of that and redeveloping other portions. So there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, those views up there have value, and there may be somebody willing to spend the money to build a place up there and at the same time build some affordable housing nearby.
Gary, still to you.
Okay. We're moving into transportation. So transportation infrastructure is a high priority in Clackamas County. How do you see the improvements in roads and bridges being funded without raising taxes or charging tolls?
I'm happy to jump into that. Last night, we actually had this conversation at the Region 1 Act. The Region 1 Act is the Area Commission on Transportation, includes Clackamas County, Multnomah County, Washington County, and Hood River County. And so they were actually talking about the STIP funding, and which comes in a 3-year cycle, and how those dollars will be apportioned to transit and to bike ped and to highways and roads and so forth. But that's specifically a funding bucket for state facilities. And as you know, the gas tax has been in place in Oregon, was the first gas tax, I think, in the country. And along with that, it really hasn't been raised very much. And as gas mileage has improved, those gas tax revenues for the miles driven have fallen. And so ODOT is facing actually a financial annual shortfall in funding that they normally would have. So the better the mileage and the more electric cars out there, the less revenues are to work with. So what's happening at the national level and the state level is looking at, it's called road user fees, and that is also tied to what's called vehicle miles traveled. Oregon was one of the first states to implement a pilot program called Orgo, and basically it would have a little device in your car that would measure the mileage, and then they basically charge you for that. It's a concept. And that might be fully implemented at the federal level, the national level, and for all cars made from the year 2027 forward. So what's happening right now in our region and our state is discussions along that line to help augment that loss of income and to help with the funding. The other unfortunate thing is, like, you know, another double disadvantage, if you want to call it that, and that is that the cost of building anything has increased substantially. So how far a dollar would go 5 years ago on transportation, man, I'd probably say that it's probably grown by, it's about a 25% disadvantage easily right now, that the cost of it just keep on accelerating. That applies to everything, building housing, building roads, and so forth. So the state, everyone's trying to get ahead of that. And unfortunately, the other element that some people say it helps and some people say it will hurt is that there's also talk of tolling and regional tolling within the metro area of all of our roads. So that's something that we've had some consternation about. It's been introduced as a means to force or push people to change their behavior. And I always tell people, if that is the goal, you want to change our behavior, then you better provide us a heck of a lot more transit, because we certainly have our areas where we have no transit. And basically, I kind of feel that we're trapped, and it's going to be extraction of dollars rather than providing us the transit and transportation options that we need. So a lot said there. That's a huge topic. Happy to talk more or take questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to jump in on that real quick, if I may. Let's keep in mind something else, and that is that many years ago, the federal government ponied up 80% of the cost of some of these transportation projects and others. And a perfect example of another is the Water Environmental Services treatment plant. 80% of that was basically paid for by the federal government. Today, the $20 million improvement is having to be paid for almost entirely by the ratepayers. So having the assistance of the federal government on some of these projects has all but disappeared in many, many, many cases. And the other thing is, in terms of our local roads, a little bit of history. Since 1986, there were 7 or 8 attempts to get a gas tax locally in Clackamas County to pay for the maintenance of our roads. It failed every single time. So this board took it upon themselves to do the most responsible thing that it could and raise the VRF. That VRF is responsible for about 50% more local road projects being done or in the pipeline than would have been done without that VRF. Some of that money also will be going to the cities, and they will have an opportunity to use that to improve the transportation road network in their jurisdictions. So what people need to know is that more and more, the costs of these things are on all of us and are not just going to be coming from federal government largesse.
Okay, Sherry, there's a local question about somewhat relates to transportation. It says a few months ago, something popped up regarding pedestrian and bicycles crossing options around and near the Abernathy Bridge. One of the options was turning the Arch Bridge into a pedestrian and bicycle only option. Clearly, this is very early in the process, but does anyone know where we are in that process?
Yeah, I can answer that question. So because of the I-205 project, there has been a requirement to provide a safe pedestrian bike ped crossing over the Willamette River to get from here to there. We have the region, and a number of us have kind of expressed concerns about how safe or expensive that might be to include that type of facility on the Abernathy Bridge if it gets rebuilt. So therefore, an alternate is being considered. I think the requirement is to make it relatively convenient and close to the Abernathy Bridge, whether that's north or south or upstream or downstream, however you want to look at it. And this was brought to to staff at the county and city level and to the elected leadership at the county and city level to discuss. And so that's one of the options that's being explored by the region. And I would definitely ask that anyone, citizens, businesses alike, chime in on that opinion. I was surprised to know that was, a concept, but I wouldn't get too alarmed. There's great opportunity for input. And I don't know how that would work out because West Lynn's part of that discussion as well. So we need to be mindful of that. And I don't know exactly how those options what they'll eventually look like. I did talk to the mayors of West Lynn and Gladstone about an option that might land on the north side of the bridge, between Gladstone and West Lynn. So hopefully everything's on the table and we look at that. But I certainly remember when we rebuilt that Arch Bridge and how we celebrated that in that history. So I would love to know the thoughts and the concerns that are expressed by those that use the bridge every day.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. Sherry, next.
Okay, we're moving into some questions regarding the courthouse. How real is the completion and is it ready for occupancy date of 2024 looking for the new courthouse?
I would certainly like to see the courthouse project move forward. I was hoping that we would get there with a contract for the end of the year, but that's not going to happen. The chair-elect says that she is going to kill the project. So it's going to be up to the rest of the commissioners who are here in the future and the citizens who desperately need a courthouse to make sure this happens. $80 million is being paid for by the state of Oregon. You know how often,
96 million, I believe.
Okay, excuse me, 96 million. I know how often the state of Oregon gives us $96 million. Never. So get behind the courthouse and make it happen.
Mr. Chairman, can I jump on that for a second?
Sure.
I'd also like to point out that the idea of taking commercial property at the mall and trying to turn that into a courthouse is patently absurd. The kind of construction necessary for a courthouse, like for a school, is significantly different and significantly more expensive than your average home or even your average commercial building. And there's no evidence to suggest that the state would be willing to share that $96 million back to us for just the remodel of a building at the mall. And finally, one of the reasons that the courthouse was going to be built at the campus is that the infrastructure is already in place. That campus was designed with that in mind, starting in 1998. And the incoming chair is on record in 2015 of supporting the building of the courthouse and the master plan, and having stated she did not want to see judges swimming in the river. So let's make sure that that $96 million worth of our taxpayer money comes home to us and doesn't get given to someone else. Thank you.
Also, the property up here at Red Soil is already off the tax rolls.
That's correct.
And if we were to build it somewhere else, it would be taken off the tax rolls. Justice is not being served in the current courthouse.
Now, this is an important topic, so I'm going to jump in. Sorry for that. And that is that, we got to realize that the courthouse was built for a very small populated county, long time ago. That should go without saying. Our population is growing. That courthouse is maxed out. If you care about public safety and you care about justice, we need a bigger courthouse. We need to have a proper size. And we also, when we're making that kind of a public investment, we need to be mindful that we also have to have some kind of room to grow as our population continues to grow. So while Chair Bernard and Commissioner Humberston pointing out the $96 million of assistance to cover about half of the project, it's the other half that we need to come up with, and we need to find a way to do it. And hopefully we can do it in a way that we don't have $75 to $100 million of interest cost on top of that, which is, will just basically be a burden to the county and the general fund or the taxpayers for about 25 to 30 years or more. We have to find a financial means to get there, to get the balance of that money.
Sherry, do you have
Any follow-up questions, Dan?
Well, just one, just a question in that with the state pitching in $96 million now, is there a tendency to overbuild or overspend or think that you have all the money in the world? And is there a mechanism in place to justify the increase in the courthouse and the conditions of it being built?
Well, there's not a final design for the courthouse at this point. So what you have to have next is a final design for the courthouse, and then the what they call value engineering approach to look at the actual ultimate final cost. The $240 million is an estimate based on the cost of the courthouse plus peripheral construction, such as roads, parking lots, and removal of other buildings from the campus. So that is strictly a preliminary estimate. I believe personally that with the value engineering approach, that cost will be driven down somewhat. How much, of course, we don't know at this point in time.
Okay. That's all I have on that, Sherry.
Okay, so again, this is a building question. When new municipal buildings are built, what lifespan does the county build to? And how does that reflect on value when you own the property and build a dedicated structure versus leasing and remodeling?
I think that new requirements on something like this is now 75 years, but I'm not absolutely sure.
And I would like to jump in with this. I'd like to remind people that back in 2003, when we were starting to build the buildings on that campus, the courthouse has been part of that plan since before even I was a commissioner. But I think that the point I'm trying to make is that the reason we built the buildings, we were spending so much money on leasing and renting space across the county with offices spread everywhere. It was inefficient. It was hard to get to people. And we actually save money by building the building and financing it to get folks solidified on one campus. So this whole notion of trying to lease or rent, in the end, once you go down that road and you have it, and if we start doing, fragmenting again, it isn't necessarily going to save you any money. So just a point of order with that.
Yeah, I do want to add one element to that, and that is that our public safety professionals who work in the court legal system arena tell us that they need to transport people sometimes from the jail to the courthouse, and there's a cost embedded in that. So seeking efficiencies, we've been told by the sheriff, we've been told by the judges, it's a good idea to as well. It's a good idea to put the courthouse as close to the jail as possible. That way you cut down on transportation costs, you cut down on delays. It's a safer environment. So there's a number of elements. So that's really what we're doing. That's as placing it on the campus near the jail. That is the goal. We can achieve those savings and those efficiencies, and building it elsewhere in the county and being somewhat spread out is, at least in this case, is not I don't think a wise option.
There's another aspect to it also, and that is that virtually almost all of the social services that a client that has to go to court may need would be available right there at the campus, not 12 miles away. So that's another one of the reasons for having it there. If you're a woman that needs a court order for a protection order or other kinds of social services and has to go to court first, you could literally walk across the campus and go to the social services department and get those things taken care of. There are a wide variety of other issues that would apply to also. So there's a convenience for the public who may have to use the courthouse also involved in this whole thing.
Okay, Sherry, next area.
Okay, so we're moving into House bills. House Bill 110. With that passage, small amounts of LSD, heroin, methamphetamine, and cocaine are now just decriminalized. What's missing in this measure is new funding sources for treatment. Can the county address this and set the stage for its cities as a cooperative effort?
Jump in on that, Martha.
I hope so. I wasn't particularly a fan of that particular bill. I think that sometimes when this is my personal opinion, to decriminalize, oftentimes we're not thinking that somehow we're going to have additional revenue streams to provide treatment with people, because these are addictive substances. So I don't know what to say about that, other than I'm hopeful that the state will continue to help fund mental health and addiction services at a sufficient level, because there's a consequence when we do this kind of thing and we do those kinds of decriminalization. That's just my opinion.
I would add that, for a number of years now, I've been kind of advocating for, we need a drug treatment facility in the region, at least in the region, if not in Clackamas County. And it was always, or not, it was often in the context of some of the homeless folks that are suffering from an addiction of sorts, whether it's alcohol or it's drugs or whatnot. So, and we know from national and local statistics that there's a real need for that. Our public safety people, our emergency responders have all talked and need that. And mental health as well, but I'm going to shift back to this just to 110, and that is, I think it was a well-intended effort, and I don't think that we fully understand the impacts of that. But without the treatment, I don't see how we can be effective, and perhaps indirectly we can, as a region, can with this homeless services measure, maybe there's a means of getting some drug treatment, even though that will be specific to housing somehow. But I think if we're going to solve some of our problems in our society, we certainly need to have the facilities to treat it. But that comes with a price, an expense.
Yeah, I just want to jump in and say, I'm not an expert on 110, but my understanding is that one of the measures, I'm pretty sure it was that one that decriminalized, also directed resources from marijuana revenue to go towards drug treatment. I'm not sure if any of my colleagues want to shake their head yes or no about what their understanding is, but Oregon is like one of the worst states in the country when it comes to resources for addiction. And the state really needs to step up and prioritize this, because it's just too devastating to families and to our workforce and to all our systems and our public safety. We really need to look at addiction as a medical issue that should be treated like any other medical issue, stop stigmatizing it, and make sure we put the resources behind it so that people, if they don't have those resources to their private insurance, they can get access. And a lot of it, and Martha's such a spokesperson for workforce, but a lot of it is workforce. We need to entice people into these professions to be drug and alcohol counselors and other areas of our medical field. And we need to have systems and structures in place to prioritize it.
So drink more, gamble more, smoke more, and we will be able to pay for drug addiction.
There you go.
Okay.
I think that's kind of my point a little bit.
Gary, do you want to, I have one, I have a kind of well, this is a question maybe for Ken to choose his replacement, but this is from one of our audience members who works with Ken on Veterans Court. And he has a concern now that who will work with him on that court to continue that process. And that's from our good friend Larry. So
well, I'm gonna ask Martha to actually work with Larry on that one. We do have a couple of judges and our new district attorney who are willing to work on this project. The new district attorney even has an idea of how to at least start small and get it off the ground. So hopefully that will happen. Yeah, unfortunately, I won't be there to work on that project. But Martha's been involved with this sort of issue for some time, so I think she would be the ideal person to step in on it.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Humberston. I just want to add that we had stalled with that. We've been trying to do this for a long time, and when you came on board, you really helped unstall it. And I think the fact that we have a DA and the judges that are now receptive to the idea, I think we can move ahead with it. And particularly if we get a new courthouse, wouldn't it be a wonderful spot to have that kind of a service for our veterans, so they can get the support that they've earned because of their service. But thank you, Ken, because you unstalled it. And I give you all credit for really helping make that happen.
Thank you.
okay. Sherry, I think you have one last question. Is that right?
Yeah, I have a general question. So which generation should invest in the future? And should all investments in our future, including capital improvements and infrastructure, be both public and private investments?
Well, to the second part, yes. That's a simple one.
What's the easy part?
Yes, absolutely.
Generation Z. I don't have any idea how to answer that. All of us.
We have to invest now. I think we're trying to invest now. The biggest change is that we don't have the same level of dollars. I think Ken has mentioned this as well as my other colleagues. We don't have the same amount of money from the federal government. So it's really falling on the backs of local governments, counties and cities. And remember, it's not just transportation, it's water, it's sewer. And I think the wave of the future is going to be public-private partnerships. Unless the federal government steps up to the plate one more time, the way they did in the glorious 50s, okay, 40s, 50s, and 60s, to really build this kind of a infrastructure for our communities. And remember, it's not just building new, it's also about how do we maintain what we have at a level that it remains functional. And those of us who have had our streets carved up and dug into to put in new source pipes like we have here in my neck of the woods know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's critical, but I think that the public-private partnership is going to be the wave of the future. And I think that's our job now as commissioners to do what we can to get as much infrastructure ready, to get it on the ground and get it moving. So, Paul, you're Joe Infrastructure. What do you got to say about this?
Well, that's a lofty topic, and it gets into economics. And I'm going to try to remain as optimistic as I can and want to be. But we got to realize that the cost, just literally the cost of doing business, whether it's the public sector, the private sector, is having an impact on affordability. And I think the more expensive we make it on our households and our citizens in this county, the more people are going to fall, unfortunately, into homelessness. And we don't want to exacerbate that. We need to keep affordability in our communities. We need to keep our livability in this community and our safety and all those things that are important. We know what's on people's minds. We do surveys. But mathematically, we got to realize that just this COVID thing, just the federal deficit where that CARES Act money came from and all these other dollars, all this federal assistance, that's going to be passed on to generations to come. And that pains me because I'm in this position because I wanted to not only give back to my community, but also keep in mind that the future generations have live better and have a better world. And that means we have a responsibility to provide all the infrastructure, to provide as much as we can, to provide all the facilities and put the systems in place and the programs in place that protect us going forward, that we educate our kids. This is a broad topic, and it touches everything that the county does and then some. But definitely it's on the forefront of my mind of what I pass on or we pass on as commissioners to our next commission and our next commission afterwards, which really is a reflection of those generations to come. Great question. Thank you.
I think that's what we have, Kent. We're going to pass it back to you.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Dan and Sherry, for doing a great job in moderating the questions. And thank you all the commissioners for your in-depth and comprehensive responses. I was hoping we had time to ask you about your climate action plan that you are looking to implement in 2022, and just what the county is doing right now with climate change being on the forefront of a lot of people's minds. But we're getting close to 1 o'clock, and I don't want to take away any time from each of you in your closing comments. But if you'd like to touch on that topic in your closing statements, feel free to do so. So we're gonna switch it up. So we're gonna do in reverse order. We'll do reverse alphabetical. Paul, we'll let you start out.
Okay, thank you, Kent. And thank you everyone for hosting us today. And I know that some of you are business owners and some of you are public officials and also involved in your community. And I appreciate you all being here. So I'm hoping, hopefully we can do this again. I don't think any of us ever prepared for 2020. And I think that the emergencies and the things that we have faced this year were obviously unforeseen, the magnitude of them. And so I just am proud of my colleagues who have handled this with grace, and the community that's handled it with grace. And I want to just touch on the enemy. The enemy is COVID right now. I mean, it's hurting us. I'm just hoping that we can all pull together despite our differences or our beliefs or understanding the metrics or understanding of what the problem is real, is COVID real or not, and realize that there are people suffering. I have my family members that are in the medical industry that are on the front lines. It's real, folks. It is real. And I think that we need to take every precaution that we don't overload our system. We're seeing the spikes nationwide, worldwide right now. So we can't call another state for help. We need to do this on our own. And so I just want to make sure everyone's mindful that I know my colleagues take this very seriously, and I can guarantee you our staff are as well. So with that, I'm just hoping that we can all find a way in this emergency, not unlike our world wars or any of our wars. We all have to come together as a country, as a community, as a county, as a state, and fight the enemy of COVID and do the best we can to do our part. So I think that's on the forefront of my mind, and hopefully we can say farewell to 2020, come the first of the year, and look forward to a better 2021 ahead. And I'll just end there, but with one thanks, say have a great Thanksgiving, and I hope to see you all soon. Thank you.
Martha, you want to go next?
Sure, I just want to address the climate action plan piece. I had an opportunity to kind of review some of the information here. We do have a climate exchange committee that has really identified the relevance of what we're having to do with climate change. And, you know, that's everything from energy efficiency to how we recycle inside the county, to whether or not, actually, I even believe there's a plan to put solar panels on top of some of our buildings. But I'd also like to remind folks that we've always been climate conscious in Clackamas County, because both of our buildings, the development services building, as well as the public services building, are LEED certified buildings. And that was our commitment when, and that will be, I suspect, our commitment with the courthouse as well, that you want to build buildings that are energy efficient, that reduce use, that have very good HVAC systems and all the good things that we can do as when we finally get a chance, because of the COVID situation, to move back and get down to our offices again. That's how I think we're going to continue to do business. And one fun fact about it is, if you know, I'm an entomologist, believe it or not, haven't practiced in a long time, but one of my little things that I wanted to do that got sidetracked a little bit, that's kind of fun but meaningful, is that I wanted to have a pollination initiative. And what does that have to do with climate? Well, it's helping to preserve the creatures that basically give us the food in our food chain, because pollination is so important. So that's just a little fun fact. Other than that, I want to thank all of you. I want to thank my colleagues. This year has been unprecedented. It's going to be 2021 soon. And I just want to say, I wish everybody a safe and healthy holiday. And yes, that is my tiny dog barking. Sorry about that. So I'll go on at this point. Okay.
Well, I knew you said you had a 100-pound dog, and I was trying to figure out how that bark was coming out of a 100-pound dog.
I have a 14-pound dog and a 100-pound dog. And the lucky thing is that people in my neighborhood think I'm the local dog walker. So it's good to be incognito.
Okay, great. Well, Ken, you're next in line.
Thank you. Well, it's been an honor to serve on this board, as I said earlier, and I'm sorry I will not be here in the future to serve, but there are a few things I'd just like to leave you with that I hope my colleagues will pursue aggressively. While we always have issues that we need to deal with in the immediate moment, somewhat analogous to Commissioner Savas's view on transportation is how I tend to look at economic development, looking years down the road as to what we can do to make sure that people have family wage jobs and the technology they need to do those jobs, and stay closer to home if at all possible. So there's some initiatives. One, of course, as you've heard from me many, many times, is the cross-laminated timber industry. I believe that Clackamas County is absolutely ideally situated to be a hub in the Pacific Northwest, at least in this corner of Oregon, for that industry. There will be a company locating in Estacada, and there will be family wage jobs that will be provided by that company. High-speed internet, which I hollered about for 3.5 years, and COVID has now finally, I think, gotten people to recognize how critical that is to our success going forward. I'm a personal believer that if we can partner with companies, great, but if we can't, then we do an ISP ourselves, whatever it takes to get that service out there to everyone. And the lady that I referenced earlier outside of Sandy city limits is a perfect example of why it is so critical. But it will also be great for our business community. Third is a land bank authority. Unfortunately, we had to set that aside and use the funds that we had appropriated. That was the seed money to purchase some of the old industrial sites and clean them up and repurpose them for family wage jobs. I hope that my colleagues will continue to pursue that and get that done, because while it's sometimes difficult to find a piece of property that's appropriate for a business to locate in, those pieces of property we already know businesses can in fact locate in, so that it does increase our inventory of land available for business development. And then our Forest Advisory Board has worked on a project that is related to the environmental issues. And it's a carbon sequestration project that would allow us to do carbon sequestration of a certain amount of our 3,000 acres of forested land here in Clackamas County that we own, while at the same time still being able to harvest what we need to support our parks. And we could make about $1.5 million in profit by doing this. I'm hoping that that will get brought forward to the board in the very near future and that they will adopt that plan. So looking forward for the long-term economic health of our county, those are the kinds of initiatives that we need to be working on. And a direct answer to your question on our environmental plan, please contact Eben Polk. That's EBENPOLK. He is in our sustainability office, and he can give you chapter and verse on everything that we are doing or trying to do that will reduce our carbon footprint and get us to net zero. Thank you again for the privilege and the honor of serving this county, and I look forward to seeing you all in the future.
Great. Well, thank you, Ken. We definitely look forward to seeing you as well. Sonya, what do you have for our closing comments today?
So, hey, Kent, thank you. I just want to appreciate the Oregon City Business Alliance. You know, as I reflect upon since I became a commissioner in 2017, so many members of this group have been such a strong foundation of support and advice for me, my thinking, my commiserating. Just currently, I have William Gifford and Dan Fallow, who served on a group of a diverse group of folks looking at defining an information tool to get out to folks to define Clackamas County as we move forward into COVID recovery, a piece of information gathering that I feel is really important for myself as a leader in Clackamas County and to help define the consensus points and what we need to do to move forward. So the input of this group has been absolutely critical. And I just want to piggyback on to just some comments that Commissioner Savas talked about. At this time, it's just so important that we recognize that COVID is the enemy and that we all come together to fight it. I really appreciate the way that Commissioner Savas frames the issue, and us together with our business community and our elected leaders really working together to move us through. There will be an end to this COVID crisis. We will have a vaccine and it will be distributed and we will thrive as a community. But from now until then, while we're in this emergency, when our cases are spiking, we must do everything individually and collectively that each of us can do. Because when Commissioner Savas and I were talking over the weekend, and he was just explaining his relatives that work in the field, and you know what's ahead for us? It's makeshift hospitals in the parking lot. And who wants to go get their broken ankle or their hurt back or their whatever other ailment fixed in a makeshift hospital? This crisis is about all of us. It's about each and every one of us. There isn't an us and there isn't a them. There's a we. And as we go into this Thanksgiving holiday, you know, I posted on my Facebook page my plans for Thanksgiving, which I was going to go to where my son is living with his girlfriend and her parents, thinking that was one household and we would be the other household. We'd have 6 people adhering to the CDC guidelines. But we've canceled those plans because as the cases continue to increase, it's just not safe for all of us to be together, since especially my son works out in food industry and didn't feel comfortable having everybody together, even if they are 6 feet apart. So this is going to be a really challenging time, and it's hard on all of us. But please, let's everyone do all that we can to be grateful for each other, to appreciate all the goodness that there is, and to move forward to better days.
And as usual, my commissioners have taken up all the time. But I want to thank the Oregon City Business Alliance for putting this on. I want to thank the citizens of Clackamas County for the honor of serving you. I have no regrets of what we've done in Clackamas County. A lot more needs to be done. And I also want to thank Ken. You know, Ken and I have become great friends. I would have never had this opportunity to meet such a wonderful man who so healthy. And I think I'm gonna offer up a bourbon and Canadian dry, and cheers to Ken, and cheers to me, and the cheers to all of you. See you again. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chair Bernard. Again, we will definitely miss your presence serving on the county commission. So again, I want to thank each and every one of the commissioners that were here today for their thorough responses. Some very important topics. A lot of people have been wondering what's next. Obviously, the vaccines are on the forefront right now, and I'm sure the county will be very instrumental once we actually know how those are going to be distributed, in making sure that that distribution plan is implemented as expeditiously as possible. But yeah, stay strong, stay resilient, but most importantly, stay safe. As Chair Bernard said, you got an option. You can stay safe or you can die. And I guarantee you, you don't want the second option. So just be very, very careful and follow the CDC guidelines. So with that being said, our next webinar will be in January. We never have one in December because our fourth Tuesday of the month always coincides so close to Christmas. So our speaker will be City Manager Tony Conkle for the City of Oregon City. We kind of like to have him as the kickoff speaker for a new year, kind of lay out the agenda of what the city has planned. And we've already got other speakers lined up for February and March, but we'll save January to let you know who those are. But I wish everyone a very warm Thanksgiving. Our thoughts and prayers from the Oregon City Business Alliance go out to each and every one of you. We thank all the attendees for participating today in this event. And just always put safety first. We can't stress that enough. So with that being said, look forward to seeing you next time and enjoy the holidays.